guys, my name's Dan, welcome back to the Forge. In this episode we're going to be making a super cool little hardy shank with a wedge for our Blacksmith Helpers, and we're also going to be talking about some of the tooling you can make for your guillotine tools at home. Okay, I'm going to get on with some of the tooling for this today, but the first thing that we need to do is make the shanks so that we can hold them in our hardy. In the kits that come with hardy shanks, I will be asking you for some measurements. Okay, so what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to measure up the hardy hole, and to do that you could use a ruler or a tape measure or something like that. That would be fine. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a set of vernier calipers. I'm going to drop these in the hole and take an average from one direction at about 25 millimeters, so that's roughly an inch. And then go in the opposite direction, do exactly the same, just over 25 in that direction. So I know that I need to have about an inch square, 25 millimeter square shank to go in here. However, this is an inch square, this is 25 mil, just under actually, or just over, and it will not go in my hardy hole. What we need to do is take the corners off. Now 9 times out of 10 it'll just be the corners that need to be relieved, so they will fit in the hardy holes. However, I know that mine's a little bit tricky and it tapers. Now you could grind these into shape, or you can forge them like I'm going to do. So if you'd like to copy the way that I'm going to make my shank in this video, you'll also need to know the depth of your hardy hole. Now I'm going to measure that with a tape. You could do that with a set of calipers if they're long enough. So for this we want the longest distance for our tapered section, which it finishes just about here on this anvil. I'll show you on a conventional anvil in just a second. Okay, so first things first, we're going to take the corners off, do a bit hotter. I'm not going to go mad, I'm just going to take off probably knock the corners down to about 3 mil, so what's that, an eighth, something like that. Okay, so this still doesn't fit, but it could be one of two things. It could be the fact that it's expanded because it's hot, but where I've put the corners on, or taken the corners off, it will have also swelled these sides up ever so slightly. So what I'm just going to do is very gently work down the length of this material. Wow, that's much better. Now I still think, because of the heat, that we are going to be tight. Okay, after a bit of fiddling, that goes nicely all the way through now. So what I need to do is I just need to mark up this radius here and the height on here, which I'm going to do with this piece of chalk. Just mark that off, and then I'm just going to mark the radius on the bottom here as well, because now we need to make a hole. Okay, so I want quite a long slit cut through this, so that I can make this as big and as round as possible. So to do that, I'm going to be using more of a chisel slitter than a punch, and I'm going to line the one end of the chisel, one side of the chisel, up with the centre dot. Now that's not quite central, I need to move that over just a touch. slots in, came out pretty good. I've just taken a grinder, taken those corners back off again. I don't want to forge those because that'll just collapse the eye. But yeah, I'm quite happy with that. So what I need to do now is chop the length off a little bit because it's not dropping through all the way now, and just make sure it passes through. Everything's nice and tidy, and then we can move on to the next stage. Both the ends are cleaned up, this side's nice and flush as well, and when I drop it into the hardy hole, I've got this so that it's nice and level, and that the top of the slot is just covered by the radius on the back end of the hardy hole. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drill and tap an 8mm bolt for this hole here. And then once I've done that, basically we're ready to make the little wedge, which I'm probably going to do out of wood, and move on. When I tapped the holes for the Blacksmith Helper, I used a drill predominantly for the whole process, just drilled through with that because there was nothing stopping the tap on the other side. Now this, on the other hand, will bottom out. So what I'm going to do very carefully is I'm going to start it with the drill, just get it going, and then once we're started, I'm going to move over to an adjustable spanner. Like I said in the previous video, I don't have the right size tap wrench for this job. And often the biggest reason for tap snapping is the fact that swarf builds up in the bottom of the hole. That jams the tap in and then it snaps. Okay. So I'm going to run through with the second and the plug. And I'm going the entire length for the tap. I'm not going any more. I've drilled deeper than the tap needs to go, just to be on the safe side, because I know what I'm like. So yeah, I'm just going to bit of cutting fluid, put the second, and then go through with the plug. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to pop this up on its side. There's 3 holes here. Now the 3 holes allow you to move it around a little bit. Now on my anvil, because of the location of the hardy, everything sits a bit too far over, so I'm going to use the furthest one to the back. But you might want to use the middle one or the one right in the centre there. So put myself an 8mm bolt through the hole. Just going to grab our shank, screw that on there with the newly made threads. Screw that on there, and then no need to do it up tight just yet because I might want it at a bit of an angle or something like that. And then that just drops in the hardy hole, and you've got yourself your Blacksmith Helper. Whilst our wedge soaks up a bit of oil, let's talk about tooling. No matter which kit you buy, you're going to get one of these, and you're going to get one together. Now, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them in the future, but I'd like to just go over some of the very basic tools you can make with this without doing anything seriously dangerous. Not seriously dangerous, but serious, like getting involved in doing any kind of machining or forging or anything like that. Now, for all of these, you just need to cut them in half. Now when you come to make your tooling, you need to be super careful where you cut this. There's not a lot of room between these two jaws. There's 80mm between the two jaws, and at least 20 of that is going to get taken up with whatever tooling that you choose to use. Now for this piece here, I'm going to be chopping it in half and welding on some round bar to make our 20mm diameter fullers. You could grind those on if you wanted to, that would work as well, but for this I'm going to be welding them on. But for some of the other tooling, you have to be really careful to make sure that you don't go too high, because you end up having your tooling right the way up here. Now I'm just going to show you what I did, because and the mistake I made was with a set of these butchering dies. Now this is a very simple thing to make if you know someone with a saw. I might cut some of these because these are ridiculously easy. You basically just cut a 45 through your plate and then take them apart and turn one of them around, and that'll give you your butchering dies. And what I mistakenly did was I had this so high up that when it wasn't being used, basically there was another 20mm on top of there, and it was basically useless. However, what I've done is I cut a little bit off the bottom, and that now gives me a tool that I can use as a set of butchers. Now I need to do a bit of tidying up and dressing on these, but there's something to be aware of. What you want to do is think about where this tooling is going to be when it all comes together. The most straightforward and simplest dies you can make are a set of flat set dies, just like these. They go in super easy, and you basically just have to cut your tooling in half. So this one goes in the bottom, super simple, like so. It's a bit tight on this paint. And then this one goes in on the top. And now you're looking for these to meet roughly in the middle somewhere. So you want to be, I don't know, about 35–40mm up on this one, okay? So on one half of these, I want to put a little bit of a bevel. So I'm just going to mark halfway here. I'm only going to do it on one half, on one side. But I'm just going to mark off like so. And then I'm going to bevel this side and this side with a little bit of a radius, and all the others I'm just going to clean up so that they just touch, so there's no like super sharp edges. And here with the butchers, it's important to make the most of these slides, the slide guides at the top and the bottom, these bolts. Because if one of these is loose, so if I loosen off this bottom one, for example, so there isn't any guide on the bottom here, the two tools can overlap then so that they're not lined up, which will put your work out. So if you then, it's got jammed up. So if I then set that so it's all the way back and in there tight, when I drop the tool in now, these still sit flush. In order to guarantee these fall in the middle, I've marked up the centre. I just slit them out with a disc and then a grinding stone, and then just tied them up with a flat disc. And that's hopefully just going to keep those in the centre there, which looks pretty good at the minute. So now I'm going to weld these together, and then after they've been welded together, I'm just going to tidy the sides off just to make sure that they all sit nice and flush and tidy together. And then after that, we're ready to give them a go. Okay, really happy with those. They went together quite nicely. I've just got to get rid of the spaff, all the spatter and everything. And anywhere where the weld's ever so slightly raised, like there, I need to take that down, otherwise it's not going to fit through our slides. So that they were where I tacked it on. But yeah, just clean that off and make sure that they're going to pass through. Not so much of a big deal with this one, because this one doesn't move and should sit in there nicely. But just be aware of that. And here is the basic set of dies. I'll do you a bit of a close-up in a minute. You've got your sets, you've got your butchers, and you've got your fullers. Now, there are a lot of other tools that you can make for the kits like this. I will be going over those in some other episodes, but these, in conjunction with the Hardy, should get you pretty much started and should get you working with the guillotine tools pretty sharpish. Okay, so the basic idea is you take the wedge, you jam it in your slot, and then you can't move your Hardy tool, or whatever's in the Hardy. You can take it back out again. Obviously looking after these is probably a good idea, but yeah. Really pleased with this, it's come out quite nicely. And so has the wedge. Together they look great, and they're going to look really good as part of one of my kits here. I will put everything that you need in the kits. If this is part of one of the kits, you will get everything you need for this. You won't get any wood, but you will get a little bit of 40 by 10 that I used to make the slit. So if you wanted to copy this version, you could. Now, I could have made the wedge out of the piece of steel. I might still do that. It depends how long this wooden one lasts. And did you need to put a slit in like I did? No, not really. You could have drilled this hole, or just punched it and then punched it tapered and then made like a tapered drift that would lock up quite nicely. But you could have also just drilled a hole and maybe try a nut and bolt. That might work nicely as well. How you're going to tighten that up, I'm not 100% sure, but you could make some sort of system where you used the thread on top just to pull that tight. So there's a few little things that you could do if you wanted to get this kit to pull together nice and tightly, to stop it from moving around in your anvil. In fact, that last idea I've just come up with, I might do that in a future video anyway. Really happy with the shank, really happy with the tools. These guillotine tools are looking amazing, and I'm super enjoying working through the process of just making these. Hopefully people at home are going to enjoy them as well. The tooling, what it does, why I've made it a certain way, what I use it for, that will be explained as we go through the next couple of episodes on the channel. So stay tuned for that. I have a video where we're going to be making some tenons and talking about that sort of joinery. So that builds off of the perfect hole punching video. We'll be talking about perfect tenons, and then we'll talk about some perfect joinery, hopefully. So there'll be some tips and tricks videos where we'll be using the butchers and these sets, but we'll also be making some other tools. But I'll also be using this in a video where we're going to make some tongs, and I'm going to be doing some set downs with them, so check that out. And the best way to check stuff out like that is to make sure you subscribe and ring that bell for notifications, because it tells you every time I make a video. I try to make videos as often as possible, about one a week normally, sometimes a bit less, sometimes a bit more. And after hitting that subscribe button, why not hit that like button as well, because it really does help the channel. Drop a comment down below, tell me what you thought of the video, tell me what you thought of the tools, just ask me a question, why not? And then also, why not head over to my Instagram, where I do all sorts of cool stuff over there, stories, the stuff up on the boards. If you want to talk to me or send me a message, it might be a good way to get hold of me by DMing me over there. People ask me questions all the time, and if I can answer them, I try to. You could also go over and check out my Etsy, where these are for sale. These complete kits were available on the Etsy in the blue, all painted up really nicely, with an extra set of tools and also material to make your own Hardy shank. And I was kind of like, I don't know how many I'm going to sell. I don't think people are going to want to buy them completed. However, it would appear that you do want to buy them completed. I didn't realise that. And then I got a lot of people going, are there going to be any more kits available? And I was going to say no, but I'm not. I'm going to put 5 more up. And if they sell within 24 hours, I'll put another 5 up. And if they sell within 24 hours, I'll put another 5 up. And if they sell within 24 hours, I'll put another 5 up. And then I'm stopping until the new year probably, because I just haven't got time to do everything at the minute. So if they don't sell 5 in 24 hours, that's when they'll stop. There won't be any more. But if you are that desperate to get hold of these and people are gagging for them, I'm willing to do another 20 as at the same deal that the other ones were, painted with the logo on and all that cool stuff. So, right. Yes, you can also get hammers and other things and bits and bobs over there if you like, or one of these. Standard kits for these will also be available on the Etsy. You basically get one slide, you get the kit, you get the instructions, and that's it. That's all you get. However, as we go through the year, or finish off this year and start next year, I'll start adding more bits to that because there's a few little bits that I'd like to add. And if everything goes well and there's enough demand and stuff, I might start adding a few more tools in, maybe some ready-made tools and stuff. So if you want to start your kit now, get on and get whatever bit of kit that you need made. Like the fullers are really popular with these, I know that. Then you can get the kit, get started, and then when you want to add more, you can add more. Thank you for joining me. I will leave a link up here to a video that YouTube thinks is best for you. This one down here is the most recently uploaded. This one here is the previous Blacksmith Helper guillotine tool video, and that's the subscribe button. Thank you for joining me. Bye bye.